I think the word of what I have been craving in my aging journey is spaciousness. I'm making choices to choose more spaciousness. And I get to a certain point in my day, it's like, that's it. That's all the productive things I'm going to do. I'm going to go, hike with my dog in the woods now. I'm going to go make a really nice dinner. I've taken up photography. I'm going to go out with my iPhone and I'm going to, practice street photography and just get lost in that world.
Welcome to Zestful Aging, the podcast where we celebrate aging with vibrance and we defy the stereotypes of what it means to age. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, a psychotherapist of more than 30 years, here to introduce you to my off-the-mainstream guests who will energize and inspire you. My hope is to create optimism about getting older and help you cultivate zest and joy in this season of your life. And I love to hear feedback from you, my listeners. Please drop me a line at zestfulaging@gmail.com. I read every single comment. And to find out more about this podcast, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. I first became aware of today's guest when she co-wrote the classic, groundbreaking bestseller, The Courage to Heal, 37 years ago. And it's a book I've recommended many times in my psychotherapy practice. The Courage to Heal gave hope to millions because it provided sexual abuse survivors with the first real map of the healing process. And in the years since then, Laura Davis has continued writing and leading workshops all over the world that have mirrored her passage through life, learning to be a parent, exploring the dynamics of reconciliation, living in the cancer underworld, making peace with a difficult parent, and caring for a mother with dementia. Now she's in her late 60s, and aging has brought Laura into new territory once again, and she's asking herself a whole new set of questions. And these are questions we've also talked about and thought about together on the podcast, including what can I still contribute to this broken world and what matters now. I'm really excited to speak with Laura about this. Welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm very pleased to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's always such a delight, Laura, because I've known of you for so long, and I'm just so grateful that we've stayed in touch. I did an episode on your memoir, and I've been really appreciating sort of following your journey. We talked about walking on the Camino. And so I really appreciate that. Let me start by asking you, tell me about your interest in aging and when did it come about? Do you remember thinking, I'm going to sort of shift gears here?
Yeah, I would say for me, I'm 68 now, and I would say probably about 5 years ago. If I talked to you before that, I would have said, "Oh, I'm just going to keep doing just what I'm doing, for the next 20 years, or until I can't do it anymore." And I couldn't imagine. I didn't have any inner motivation to live a different way, but I would say in the last 5 years, and it's escalated each year, there's just an inner urgency, and it has to do with stopping my momentum, I think, more than anything, because I'm someone who has been led a very productive life. I've written 7 books. I've taught all over the world. I've generated my own business, been self-employed entrepreneur, creative entrepreneur for probably almost 4 decades. And I have been very identified with what I do. And I just have found that this inner impulse is that I just don't care about that anymore. I love teaching. I love what I do, but in terms of having it be my identity, having it be my reason to be, I'm just not interested. And what's happening instead is just this feeling of a lot of creativity, a lot of wanting to do things that are new, a lot of wanting to be a beginner, a lot of wanting to explore. And I think the word of what I have been craving in my aging journey is spaciousness. I'm making choices to choose more spaciousness. And I get to a certain point in my day, it's like, that's it. That's all the productive things I'm going to do. I'm going to go, hike with my dog in the woods now. I'm going to go make a really nice dinner. I've taken up photography. I'm going to go out with my iPhone and I'm going to, practice street photography and just get lost in that world. And, the identity that I have had feels like this. It's just this coat that I want to slough off now.
Is this surprising for you, Laura, being so productive and being, in our world, a really important influencer? Is this surprising that you're saying, okay, I've cranked this out. I've done a really good job. I remember you told me when you do these retreats, you've got these spread chart sheets. And I mean, you're like super competent, right? And it's a value for you. You love to do things really well and high quality. Has it been surprising for you to say, who am I?
I don't feel surprised by it because it feels organic. I'm not thinking about making this change. I'm not deciding, it's like the energy of my life. I have been propelled by generating things and having an idea and executing the idea and envisioning something and making it happen. And this is not something I envisioned. It is coming. It's organic. It's like a plant growing in the ground. And I feel like I can't stop it if I wanted to. So why not just embrace it? And I feel like the thing that I love about it is that it's about finding joy. It's about stopping in the middle of my day or my momentum, and there's like, a sunset, or there's a bloom in the garden, or there's dead leaves on the ground, and just stop, or I'm having an interaction with a stranger and there's a moment of connection and just extending that. What if I took 30 more seconds to just savor this moment of beauty? And so for me, it is really feeding me, I think, particularly at a time when I look around me, the world feels dire. And there's so much danger and uncertainty. And I could easily go down the road of thinking about, how awful things are and how awful things are going to be. And I feel like that does nothing but freeze me, and I can't be of service to myself or anyone else. So it's like having an awareness of reality, but also choosing these moments of joy, of connection, and just being open with my senses to what is happening right now, because I definitely cannot control the future.
Right. Do you find other women your age having similar experiences? You call them organic experience, that you can't even stop it if you wanted to. Have you been able to connect with other women who say, oh my goodness, that's how I feel?
Yes, definitely. I mean, not universally, but yeah, I feel like it's a certain point. It's like almost like stepping off a cliff and opening the door to what's unknown. And I am at a point in my life, my children are grown, my grandchildren they live far away. My parents are both dead. I cared for my mother until her death. I am not really responsible to anybody else, fortunately, at this moment. And I have that freedom to just think, okay, now what? Like, what little seeds, what things inside me never got a chance to be expressed because I was so busy being Laura Davis. It's interesting. I led a group I've done this a couple of times. One of the retreats I led was taking a group of women hiking on the Camino de Santiago in Spain. And on that trip, I taught writing and my co-teacher taught watercolor. So it was a creative Camino.
Oh my gosh, what a great idea.
And the very last moment, of the trip, we were standing in a circle and we were having like a closing circle. And I said to everyone, don't think about it, but if you were to digest your whole experience doing this and come up with one sentence of what you want to carry forward, what would it be? And, I just listened to each person, and then it became my turn. And the most surprising thing came out of my mouth. I said, I just want to be nobody. So I've been really just sitting with, what does that mean? And there's something that when I said it felt like this huge relief. I just want to be nobody. I don't want to be that person, that author, that, I want to just be a human being.
Wow.
I want to live in my community. I want to be of service. I want to teach. I don't want it to be like a big deal. I want to give myself permission also to be a beginner at things. I think I spent most of my adult life repeating the things I already was masterful at. I'm really good at this, and I just kept doing it over and over. And now I'm exploring things where I get to just start from scratch.
Are you getting any pushback from your community or people saying, what's the next book? What's the next, project?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't. In terms of books, I've written 7 of them, but they've all come from a really strong inner impulse, like something I needed to write about. And I think if that ever happened to me again, I would probably write another book. But I don't feel like I need to or I have to. I don't feel I need to prove anything at this point in my life. And in terms of teaching, I'm still teaching retreats and teaching some weekly writing classes. So, but I'm paring it down. It's like making my footprint smaller and creating more space and time for other things.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Zesties. Well, we all know that exercise is really important, especially as we age. Some say it's the most important thing you can do to stay healthy. But many of us find that it's really easy to start an exercise routine, but it's hard to keep it up. That's why we see so many exercise bikes and machines being used as clothes hangers come March. Am I the only one who has bought a gym membership that turned out to be a total waste of money? At this point in life, I want to do things that are good for me, but also fun. You'll never find me at a class called boot camp because life is hard enough. And that is why I love my rebounder. What is a rebounder? Well, it's a mini trampoline that has so many health benefits, it's kind of crazy. It turns out that gently jumping up and down provides excellent benefits to our whole body. It helps clear lymphatic drainage, which is basically toxic waste in our bodies. And get this, NASA uses it to help their astronauts reacclimate when they've been up in space. And I'm not even going to go into the improvements in complexion and mood. Let's just say it's hard to be in a bad mood when you're jumping to your favorite music. It's like your own dance party. But if you're interested in a rebounder, please take my advice. Don't buy a cheap one. They can actually be dangerous. I would recommend the one I have, which is a NEEDAK rebounder. It's NEEDAK, and mine's going on about 20 years old. I use it with light weights, and I've actually used it to train for the senior tennis games, as well as my Camino walk in Spain. And it's also great to use in upstate New York in the winter when the weather is awful, which is pretty often. So right now you can get a free rebounder cover at NEEDAK if you use the coupon code Zestful. So again, NEEDAK, NEEDAK. And if you have any questions, check out my YouTube demo. It's my most watched YouTube to date. So happy jumping, and I would love to hear how you like it. What else are you noticing? I mean, I'm a therapist, so I always feel like I have to apologize, but, like, does your body feel different? Like, does your energy is there a shift in other places that you've noticed since you've said, "I'm choosing spaciousness and less productivity?"
Well, I mean, I'm very fortunate that I am in good shape. I mean, like I said, I just hiked the Camino de Santiago, so I was able to do that, and I feel incredibly grateful that I could, and I'm really aware that in 6 months or a year or at any moment, my physical reality could change. So, I had this. I was joking with the people who were have come to some of my trips that the logo should be while I still can. I'm going to go have this
Uh-huh.
adventure while I still can. I'm going to come with you to
Mhm.
Bali while I still can. Because,
Mhm.
I'm very aware, and I think that's from being a cancer survivor, that in a moment everything could change.
Mhm.
I notice changes in my body, and I notice I'm more, the word is not fragile, but I'm more cautious. Like there are certain things I just won't do anymore. So yeah, I notice changes happening. And I think about like looking in the mirror. Sometimes I go by the mirror and I want to go by it really fast. I
Mhm.
don't want to look at myself. And then I remember what Catherine Nicolai said. She said, aging is a gift not given to everyone.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, this is the body I have, and it is taking me where I want to go. I could still go out on a hike. I'm swimming, and when it can't, then that'll be my new reality.
Oh, that's radical acceptance.
There's a poem I wanted to read that I've read
Mhm.
to my students by Samantha Reynolds called "I Am Not Old." Because
Mhm.
when I teach writing, I always read poetry, and often there'll be a story or a poem, and it will lead into having people write. So this is called "I Am Not Old." I am not old, she said. I am rare. I am the standing ovation at the end of the play. I am the retrospective of my life as art. I am the hours connected like dots into good sense. I am the fullness of existing. You think I'm waiting to die, but I am waiting to be found. I am a treasure. I am a map. These wrinkles are imprints of my journey. Ask me anything. That's Samantha Reynolds.
And what part of that resonates most with you?
I think you think I am waiting to die, but I am waiting to be found. I feel like there's still, for
Mhm.
me, there's parts, my whole focus, my whole life, in my work life has been about healing. The first book I wrote was about healing from sexual abuse, and everything I've done has had that component of growth. And I really believe as human beings that we evolve and that we change. And I'm also aware that there's still places inside me that are unexplored and undiscovered. And there may be new chapters of my life that are unknown to me. So I think, for me, it's really wanting to grow until I die. And
Curiosity about what's
curiosity
still there. I'm gonna give space to what still wants to be known.
and awe. I think I have much more awe when I walk around. I mean, I lead these trips and I have always blogged them. And as part of that, I've taken photographs. And I'm not really, I'm not a good photographer. I was never trained as a photographer. But on the last trip I took, there were some really good photographers. And one woman in particular, Kendra, her name is Kendra Webster, she and I started sitting down at lunchtime, and she would look at my camera roll and she would start saying, you could improve this photo if you did this or that or this or that. And she just got me going. And I've been studying photography ever since. And I've become an avid hobbyist, I guess you would say. And I think what I love the most is that it's a new way of seeing, because as a writer, I've been a person of words for many decades, and I'm very capable with words. They come easily to me. I love words. I love reading. I love hearing. I love speaking. I love helping people come up with their own words. But photography is visual. And I've never really done anything visual before. And what it inspires me to do is look for beauty everywhere. But there's
Hmm.
just that I could feel anxious, or I could be having a hard day, and if I just go out with my phone, which I'm using as a camera, and I start looking at the world, even my own backyard, even like
Hmm.
1 square foot, in that square foot there can be so many beautiful, amazing things.
And when you are, as we are, surrounded by the brutality of the world, how do you discipline yourself to bring it back to finding joy?
I don't feel like it's a question of discipline. I feel like it is survival. It's absolute survival. And what I've done, which I think I would say most of the people I know at this moment, I just stopped listening to the news.
Yeah.
I was kind of a news junkie, and I was really avidly tracking everything.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
I pay enough attention to know kind of the scope of what is going on. And I have really turned my focus to my own community. What can I do here to be of service? How can I be creative? How can I, extend myself to my neighbor? You know, and so for me, I feel like if I was immersing myself in the tragedies of the world, I would just be totally shut down. That doesn't
Hmm.
mean I am ignoring what's going on, or I'm not paying attention, but I know that I can't fix it or change it. And that where I look at where can I have impact. That's like one of the things is, what can I do in this broken world? And
Yes.
one of the things I do is I bring people together into writing communities, and some of them consider themselves to be writers. A lot of them, they're not writers. They don't want to like publish a memoir or novel. They just like to write, and they connect with words. And I create communities where they could feel safe, where they can express themselves, where they can tell the truth about their life, where there's all the qualities that are really disappearing in our world of compassion, empathy, trust, safety, a place where you could tell the real truth about things. And that's what I create. And it creates, for many people, that is the oasis in their week, is that they come on Zoom and they come to this class and they get to express themselves, or they come on a retreat and they get to have 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, 2 weeks, where they step out of their daily lives, and get to have this transformational experience where they really get in touch with the deepest part of themselves.
What's it like for you to witness that?
It's just so deeply moving, And for me, from my point of view, I know that when I am in a role of facilitating that, first of all, it's humbling, to witness it, but also I feel like I am using my gift. This is the
Mm.
gift I have to give, and that I often think, what if you could get people in this room who had wildly different political beliefs, and had them have this experience, this intimate experience of sharing from the heart, getting below the rhetoric into the deeper stories. Like everyone's opinion comes from a deeper story. There's something
Mhm.
underneath that has led them to have the point of view they have. And when people connect at that deeper level, they stop hating each other. They stop demonizing each other. And I would love to see that happen on a much bigger scale. I think it's an incredible tool, for
Mhm. That we all want the same things as
as
humans.
humans. Yeah, underneath as humans, we just have really wildly different ways of thinking how that might
Mhm.
happen.
Mhm. These are really so I'm just imagining that they're very powerful, and you don't know how it's going to go, right? I mean, you don't know what revelations or what transformations will occur. You're just there to midwife that.
I think my job is to create. It's really a sanctuary. I create a
Hmm.
sanctuary. It's not just a container. It's a shelter. It's a place where people will often express or get in touch with things that they might not say to their spouse or their best friend, because there's a certain safety in a a writing environment where people are, if you write something and you share it with your sister, her response might be, "You can't say that about mom," or "That's not how it
Mhm.
happened," or "You
Mhm.
really think that?" And then you're held to it forever. But in a writing group where there's confidentiality and safety, for me, I've tried out lots of things in a writing group, just testing things out and making discoveries. I think the kind of writing I like to teach isn't about like recording what you already know. It's discovering what you don't know. And that could be unearthing something that happened that you haven't thought about in 40 years, or it could be having a little seed of a vision for your future, or realizing I'm done grieving this, or I need to grieve this, or I'm letting go of this, or I'm making a commitment to X. I actually, there's one other piece I would love to read to give you an idea of
Sure, and
what.
I'd love to hear some
Yeah, okay.
prompts.
So
Is
this
that
is
okay? So, some examples because I know that your newer retreats are not for writers particularly.
no, they're for anybody who's just willing
Anybody.
to
Yeah.
use writing as a tool. So this is an example. This was at the end of a long retreat, and the theme of that retreat was building resilience and finding joy. And each person there was working on their own individual path, what they were doing. And this woman, she gave me permission to share this. Her name is Colleen Douglas, and she was just at the point of retiring from a really high-powered career as a therapist, where she had done all these trainings, and she was by nature a caregiver. And so at the end of the retreat, one of the last prompts, I won't go into the whole way I set it up, but the actual line was, it's a repeating line, "This is how you do it." That's the line. And so this is what she wrote. And this was about kind of her next step. "This is how you do it. When you get that call or text about plans for lunch on a weekend that's already peopled with social gatherings, and your knee-jerk response is to fit that lunch date in somehow, making it a late lunch in a central location to minimize travel time, but everything inside you is screaming, no. You don't like rushing, packing things in, no space to quietly savor the air or the changing light, or just simply to have time for a much-needed session to watch wildlife in your yard. You say kindly, I'm glad you called, and though I love spending time with you, I just can't do it this weekend. This is how you do it." You get invited to give a training, do a podcast, or an interview for one of those psychology summits that have become so popular. But in order to do it, you have to agree to 3 email blasts advertising said training, podcast, or interview. And you're torn because you want to help this person or organization and spread the wealth of your accumulated knowledge. But really, you're trying to find out what a day is like without to-do lists or email blasts, and you want to learn what a perfect day is for you now at 64 in a deep spiritual way. And if you're honest, you're afraid to say no, because really, always, your whole fucking life, you've only said yes. And to be really, really honest, you're afraid everyone will abandon the little girl inside who is still waiting for love, waiting for someone to pick her up out of the crib, and only if she's really good. And so you pause. You talk to your best friend, your husband, or your better angels, and you say, no thanks, not this time. Then you breathe and congratulate yourself a little, for this is how you author an authentic life right now. This is how you do it. You make big slashes of teal or purple or hot pink through whole days in your date book, and you don't let anything or anyone cross those slashes like a yellow police caution tape. You guard those days with your life. Even when the doctor calls to reschedule, or the gardener says he could only come on that day to plant the new plants, or the friend calls to say, hey, you want to go to the city to see that quilt exhibit at MoMA? It's the last day. Even then, you stop and think first, is that what you want to do with your whole day? And if it's no, then say no. I'm not free to do that. I have other plans that day, even if it's a little white lie. And in reality, the plan is to find out who you are when you're not busy, who you are without deadlines and commitments to other people, because this is how you do it. You rise slowly, knowing you have absolutely nothing on your calendar. You pull on your duck beats, leash up your darling dog Sky, put some poop bags and dog treats in your pocket and head out. Nothing in your ears but the sweet sound of birds and breeze, and you wait to see what happens next. You come home, peaceful and calm, make your dog and yourself something special for breakfast, leave the phone upstairs in the nightstand. Then you sit and meditate for harmony and peace to grow in your neighborhood, your city, your state, your country, the world. Then you cut the red-orange astromeria and the last blue hydrangeas still flowering in a shady corner. Make an arrangement for the table. Then you feel the first line of a poem forming in your heart, and glory, you have the time to write it down. This is how you do it. So that's an example of someone, where someone
Wow.
got to at the end of a week-long retreat. She
Wow.
came in at a
Oh,
very
wow.
different place, and this was the last thing she wrote. It was really her promise to herself. Yeah,
Declaration. Oh, wow. So beautiful. It reminds me a little bit of the book that just came out, Happy to Help, Amy Wilson, and I interviewed her. It was up in the last couple times. Just this idea that, like, I'm a good helper. For goodness sake, I was a Girl Scout, and I get, I'm confident, I'm good at it, and boy, is it getting old. That's such a beautiful passage.
Hey there, Zesties! Well, as some of you know, in addition to being a podcaster, well, I'm many things, but I'm also an avid thrifter of high quality garments made from natural fibers. And boy, do I have fun rescuing cashmere sweaters. I just learned this, so you may not know that vintage is anything over 20 years old. So it's really fun when I find something vintage. It's usually really well made, quite different than what companies are producing now. But I have this dilemma, and that is I can't possibly wear all the items I thrift. So I have opened an eBay store, and I think you might want to check it out. Everything on there is high quality. It's vetted by me. And I think you might appreciate the style. You can check it out. Just go onto eBay and go into Nicole's Garden 61, and that's going to bring you to my offerings. I hope you really enjoy looking at what I've thrifted. And if you're interested in this, I just did an episode called Thrifting for Mental Health that you can listen to for even more fun. So if you have any questions, reach out. But in the meantime, enjoy my thrifted treasures.
I just was wondering, with the time we have left, Laura, if you could give some examples. Well, this is one, right? This is how you do it, which is gorgeous. But for people who might be a little bit worried, like, oh, I don't know if I've got what it takes, and what if it's too difficult or literary or something? Can you give just some examples of other writing prompts that you might put out for your participants?
Okay, so here's one. Write an ode, a love song to your imperfections. No self-criticism or judgment allowed. Revel in your imperfections, your messy piles, your unfinished lists, your wrinkles, moles, and age spots, that self-improvement program that never quite got off the ground. That's
Wow, that could be fruitful.
so that's one that always makes people laugh because people really get into it, or
Yes.
I might read a poem. This is a little bit of a poem. How many years of beauty do I have left, she asks. How many more do you want? Here is 34. Here is 50. When you are 80 years old and your beauty rises in ways your cells cannot even imagine now, and your wild bones grow luminous and ripe, having carried the weight of a passionate life, when your hair is aflame with winter and you have decades of learning and leaving and loving sewn into the corner of your eyes, your children come home to find their history in your face. And the prompt would be, tell me about your relationship with beauty. Just a
And I interviewed that poet, and it's a beautiful episode. And she talks about she wrote that for her mom. Yeah, it's lovely. So you have something coming up, and when you showed me the photograph, you said it was beautiful, and I thought, well, sure, it's Santa Cruz. Of course it's beautiful. You knocked my socks off with that. Can you tell a little bit about what's coming up, who it's for, and more about some of the details?
Yeah, so this is a retreat. It's the 5th to the 10th of May, and it's in Santa Cruz, California. It's at a retreat center that is right on the ocean, on the Pacific Ocean. So, when you're eating in the dining room, there's these giant plate glass windows just looking out at the waves, and then you just walk out the back gate and there's a beautiful garden. And then you could, if you want, you just walk a little bit for like 2 minutes and you're on the beach. And then you could just walk up and down the beach. So it's in a really incredibly beautiful setting. And it's for the name of the retreat is Flourishing as We Age. And it's a writing retreat for women. And we will be dealing with, all kinds of questions that come up for people around aging, like, what do I need to make peace with? What's it like to live in my body now? What is my growing edge? Like, for me, the growing edge is, how could I bring more spaciousness into my life? And for each woman who comes, their edge might be different. And then, what do I want my legacy to be? And really, what matters now? And that will be different for each person who is there. I'm sure there will be people there who are, maybe they're thinking about retiring, or they have retired, or they're dealing with issues or changes in their own health or their own body. Maybe they're a caregiver, and this is like their respite is to come to this retreat and have some time just for themselves. People, will be dealing with all kinds of different changes. And I think what I love the most is the incredible community that gets formed by people.
Yes.
We're going to have a yoga teacher there, so there'll be optional yoga early in the morning. And then there'll be 3 teachers who will be leading the retreat. We'll have, a couple sessions every day. And as I said, you don't need to be a writer there's no critique. This isn't like, you could make your writing better. This is not about the craft of
You're not workshopping.
Yeah, it's just about the process. It's just writing as a way to, help you understand what you're thinking, feeling, to remember stories, to come to peace with things, to witness your life instead of being completely caught up in it. And that experience of being seen and heard, I think, is the most healing and empowering part of the whole thing. We'll have fun. One of the women I teach with is really into music, and she'll always have great music on in between sessions. We'll have meals together. There'll be time to rest and relax. And I think it's going to be an incredible community of people who are looking at questions of age. As I started with, in the 3rd trimester of my life, I can't pretend to be anyone other than who I am. So who am I now? I am not the same person I was 5 years ago, 4 years ago, a year ago.
That's right.
And, so who are we becoming? And also, what is it, there's like reconciling with our past, there's embracing who we are becoming, and there's how do we meet the future with wisdom, with joy, with acceptance. Those are the themes.
Oh boy, does that sound juicy. And I love what you said off mic, where you have a lot of single rooms because, women at this age don't necessarily want to bunk
That's right.
with people they don't know. Yeah. So Laura, where can people find out more about this retreat and your offerings and your goings on?
Yeah, so for this particular retreat, it's lauradavis.net/flourishing.
Okay.
lauradavis.net/flourishing. And if you just go to lauradavis.net, you'll see, the other, I have a trip to Bali next August.
Oh, not again.
Yes, again. It's my eighth or ninth time. I love it there so much.
Oh,
and
boy.
We're going to go study with Balinese healers and learn about Balinese spirituality. And I just keep going back because I love that place so much. And I also have, for people who are, who want something online, I have weekly classes. But I think for your audience, and the people who are listening, this retreat that really focuses on issues of age, and how do we celebrate? How do we step into this new part of our lives, and empower ourselves, to live our life as fully as we can, and to be of service in the ways we can.
That's
and to really,
so
I think
yeah.
one of our challenges right now is it's this marriage of grief and gratitude, because there's so much to grieve for. I mean, as we age, there are a lot of personal losses that we have to grieve for, and there's so much to grieve for in our country and in our world, and it's just kind of a constant barrage. And yet we also need to feel grateful for what we have, and we need, they're both. I mean, we have to stretch ourselves wide to be able to hold both of those things.
It's funny, that's an interesting metaphor, because I think of it as a tightrope, is this the gratitude and the grief and navigating that tightrope. And then, where do you shine your light? Where do you shine the spotlight? And I use the word discipline, but to say, no, I'm going to be in gratitude, even though I hear, something or I see a headline. No, I'm going to choose gratitude. And I think it's easy to slip into, oh my goodness, what are we in for? Because the brain loves that stuff.
Yes, the negativity bias.
The negativity bias, yeah.
And yet,
so
like tonight, I'm going
to
to a meeting in my town of Santa Cruz, where this retreat is, and it's really about local activism. So I feel like it's important for me to step up and do what I can in my own community, and aside from my teaching and the things I'm already doing, it's like, okay, how could I participate in my community with making things better, or dealing with changes that might be coming down the pike. And
Right. Yeah, and of course the research is you're checking all the boxes for longevity and, health span. So, it's been so lovely speaking with you, Laura. This sounds like a beautiful retreat. And I just wanted to repeat that it's lauradavis.net/flourishing, and you can learn more about her women's retreat on all the questions about aging. Thank you so much for spending time today.
Thank you, Nicole. It's been a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends.
Our theme song is All I Did Was Wait for You by Kjartan Abel. Visit Kjartan-Abel, that's KJARTAN-Abel, ABEL.com to hear more of Kjartan's work. And our technical director is Stephen Litweiler.
And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest. See you then.